So let's get started. So go ahead and find your sitting position. Make sure that you're sitting on some height. I'm sitting on 3 blankets this morning, and make sure you're sitting on something that gives you a little bit of support on the floor here. So you're sitting on a little bit of a height of some sort. Go ahead and cross your legs in simple cross-legged position. I'm crossing right about the midline of my tibia bone here. Happy you are joining us today. And go ahead and just lean over to one side, take the flesh of the buttocks out, lean over to the other side, slightly move the flesh of the buttocks out, and then come right back down into your sitting position. And find your base there, allowing yourself to settle into a position that finds you feeling relatively symmetrical and relatively solid in your sitting position here. And then let's go ahead and start with a few minutes of seated meditation. So gently closing the eyes if you wish, or simply directing the gaze downward, and we'll sit for a few minutes. So allowing the sound of the singing bowl to signal the process of our gathering today, the process of moving inward, letting the body move quietly into this practice this morning, feeling the sensation of grounding underneath the sitting bones. Noticing where your feet are today, where your legs are crossed, where your hands are placed. And we've built this nice, relatively symmetrical seating position here today. And so once you've done that, go ahead and draw your attention to the breath. Not necessarily changing the breath in any way, but just simply beginning to follow the breath. Noticing the sensation of it nudging against the ribs this morning. Simply watching without judgment. And as the mind begins to wander, reaching for sound or thought or memory, gently bring your attention back to your body, back to the breath. Making that a practice, doing that over and over. And now let's draw our sternum up toward our chin. Lengthen the back of the neck, allowing the chin to come down over the sternum. Go ahead and bring the hands together in the center, gently placing the palms into one another. Heels of the hands gently pressing together. Feeling that sensation all the way out through the elbows, helping that lift the chest here in this position. And saluting the divinity within as we begin our practice today. And then allow the hands to come back down to the thighs, palms facing up. Raise your head and open your eyes. Okay, go ahead and change the cross of your legs if you're sitting in simple cross-legged. Go right back into that sitting position. And go ahead and grab your belt. So we all have a belt. I've had you put the belt in a little loop, and that's not absolutely necessary, but we might use that later on. So if you haven't yet, go ahead and take your strap and put it in a little loop here and cinch that up. Okay, so we went right back into our sitting position after changing the cross of the legs. And remember, if this position isn't working for you, then go ahead and bring your legs, if you need to, into maybe a wide Baddha Konasana or even a wide Dandasana, if that feels better on your legs. But otherwise, if you want to stay sitting in simple cross-legged, that works too. Let's go ahead and start moving with the breath as we warm up this morning. So I'll have you take your belt, but this time I'm going to have you turn your palms upward and hold on to the belt. Usually we hold on to the belt, remember, with our wrists, in a neutral straight position. But just for a little change, today we're going to bring the palms facing up, and as we bring our arms over our head, our palms are going to turn a little bit. So don't worry about keeping them like this. They're actually going to naturally rotate as we bring them over the head. So let's start moving with our breath this morning. So we're going to inhale up, let those wrists roll a bit, and exhale back down. Now you can follow my inhalation, exhalation, or you can go at your own pace. Inhaling up. Wide arms. I want wide arms at this point. Exhaling back down. Inhaling up, wide arms here as we warm up the shoulders. Exhaling back down. So my arms are way on the outside of my shoulders here. Inhaling up. Exhaling back down. And then one last time, inhaling up. Exhaling back down. Good. And then just kind of roll the shoulders. Move the neck a little bit too, because in some of these movements, you might feel like the base of the skull or the back of the neck area getting a little bit tight. So anytime you need to roll the shoulders and loosen that neck up a little bit, make sure that you do that. Okay, so that we're going to take the same thing, except this time we are going to go back into the hold on the belt where we've got our wrists in that neutral position. So it's not cocked up like this, but it's actually in this nice neutral position. Again, wide arms here, wrist in the neutral position. This time we're going to inhale up and exhale back behind us. Inhale to the top. Exhale down in front. Good. Keep the pattern going. Inhaling. Exhaling. Inhaling. Exhaling. Inhaling one more time. Exhaling. Inhaling up. And exhaling all the way back down. Very good. And again, loosen it up, shake it up a little bit. Let everything just become a little bit loose here. Good, good, good. Lovely. Okay, let's do one more shoulder warm up. And if you're getting tired of using the belt, or if it's starting to feel a little bit constricting, then go ahead and just leave the belt out and do this part without the belt. So we'll do one more. We'll take some side arcs this time, continuing to move with the breath. So let's go ahead and inhale up. And then exhale to one side. Inhale up. Exhale to the side. Now round your hips as you come up. Inhale up. Exhale, as I go to one side, I'm going to ground my others and lift those opposite ribs up. Inhaling up. Exhaling down and grounding and lifting. One more time to each side. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. Inhaling up. And exhaling back down. Good. Inhale it back to the center. And then slowly take it all the way down. Go ahead and set your belt aside for the moment. And then let's just let the spine move. That's a lot of, kind of in the center movement with movement imposed on the spine. But let's let the spine move now. So let's go ahead and take some circles. Let everything begin to move. If it feels good to go side to side and let the head, kind of follow the direction of the spine. Let's do a little bit of that. Move in whatever direction your body wants to move in this morning as we begin to warm up the spine. And so we'll take it around. I'm going to go around in circles. I'm feeling a little bit of circles going today. And make sure, of course, we go both directions. And maybe even a little bit of cat-cow, if that feels good. Remember, if you're living with osteoporosis or osteopenia, you don't want to take a deep crunch here. You'll just ease yourself back to the center and focus more on that extension or that lifting piece. Taking care of your back, taking care of your body as you're doing this morning. And then release, be in the center for a couple of breaths. Okay, let's go ahead and take our legs up into a Dandasana position. So I'm going to bring them out in front of me. Okay, and if you want to give yourself a little bit of space in between your legs, if that's a little easier on your legs and helps you sit up a little more upright, feel free to do that. I'm going to give just a little bit of space in between my feet today, but you do what's right for you. Bringing my hands back with my fingertips pointing forward here, my elbows pointing toward that wall behind me. Just going to sit up nice and straight and tall here. Taking a couple of good breaths. I know this position is hard. We won't be in it too long, don't worry. But anytime you've got a little bit of hamstring length issue, this is going to be a particularly difficult pose. So for most of us who spend a lot of time sitting, and that means all of us, this can be a very challenging pose. So a couple breaths here. And then we're going to begin to walk ourselves back on our blankets or bolster. Now, if you're sitting on a bolster, and I don't want you to fall off the back end, you're not going to go as far. But I'm going to let the hold all the way down the chain, all the way from my hip to my knee to my ankle. I'm going to let everything move as I kind of start walking back and forth. If it feels good to pump your ankles when you're doing that, you can. If that gets to be a little too complicated, don't worry about it. And then I'm just going to walk forward. So I'm going to almost cycle my hips up. And again, you can do this walking forward with your hips, or you can just do it in place, whichever works best for you. I'm kind of walking back and forth on my blankets today just to get that moved. And notice that kind of instinctually, I started moving my shoulders too. And so I'm kind of moving the whole body here as I warm up those hips a little bit. And taking it back one more time again. And then forward too. There you go. Very, very good. Lovely. And then let's just go ahead and just pump those feet up and down and let the pelvis move, let the spine move with that as everything just begins to warm up this morning or this afternoon or whenever you happen to be watching this. All right. And release. Find a still point back in Dandasana. And then we're going to take our legs up. So I'm bring my legs up here and let my knees drop out to the side and go into a Baddha Konasana or colors pose here. So I have my feet together, my knees are out to the side here, and I'm just going to put my hands on the front of my shins because that gives me a little point of reference and allows me to grow into this pose a bit. So using that reference of the hands on the shins. If it feels better for you, you can take that loop of the strap and you can put it around your feet and use that as a point of reference. Notice I'm activating my feet, taking this pinky side of the foot down toward the floor, lifting my chest, not falling into my back body. That's one of my tendencies, and so I have to be really careful that I don't fall into the back body here. So watch that, excuse me, to the low back, but lift the front body and the back body here. Shoulder blades gently moving down the back. Good. I'm going to release that belt. If you have the belt, release it for the moment. And let's leave one leg down. We're going to take the other leg and bring it up to the center. So I have one leg still out in Baddha Konasana, but I brought the other leg up toward the center. And it doesn't have to be perfectly in the center, but up toward. If you want to give yourself a little bit of laxity here, that's perfectly fine too. But let's start out by just placing our hands on top of our shin and using that again as a point of reference as we press down through the foot, lifting the chest here, moving as always in all directions. So I'm pressing down or moving down through my sitting bones and up through the top of my spine, up through the top of my head as I sit in this position here. So taking a nice breath here. And then we're going to go ahead and take a twist toward this leg that's bent up toward the center. So I'm going to take the hand that's in the center and wrap it around the front of the leg. I'm going to take the other hand and bring it around behind me. Inhale as I sit up nice and tall. Now recognize that you're already in a twist here. So notice that I'm already twisted toward that knee that's up in the center. So you don't have to go any further. If this is your limit today, that's your pose. Otherwise, if you'd like to go a little deeper, we'll all inhale, lifting tall. As we keep that spine nice and tall, we can exhale from the base of the spine, slowly begin to twist, keeping the length in the spine as you twist. And then one more inhalation. Exhaling, again, continuing that twist as you wish. Making sure that that leg that's in the center area is still staying pretty much in the center there. Taking a breath or two here. And then your exhale brings you back around to the center. Be in the center for a breath. And then we'll let that leg down. And let's go ahead and bring the other one up. So I'm going to bring the other one up. Again, now some of us may want a little wider Baddha Konasana, and that's perfectly fine. So your pose may look a little bit more stretched out in this position, or maybe a little bit tighter into the body. Either one is fine, whatever's working for you for today. So we have the other leg out in Baddha Konasana. We brought this leg up toward the middle again. Let's go ahead and just put our hands here on the front of the shin. Sit nice and tall here as we prepare to twist again in a kind of a version of Marichyasana 3 here. And then we'll take that hand, the center hand, we'll bring it and make sure we anchor that hand on the shin. If it's easier for you to hold underneath, you can also do that. I'm going to hold on top. Take the other hand around behind you to give you a nice point of reference and support behind you. Dropping down through the sitting bones, lift up tall. Know again that you're already in a twist here, so you don't need to go any further unless you want to. So we'll inhale here and exhale as we gently begin to turn toward the bent knee side, or the side that's, I guess, up in the air. Breathing here. And only if you'd like to go a little bit further, you'll inhale one more time. Inhale and lift, keep the spine tall as we exhale and turn a little bit more. Any amount here. And then your next exhale brings you back around to the front. Go ahead and let the legs drop down into Baddha Konasana, holding again either with the strap or your hands, whatever feels right today. Take a couple of breaths here. Good. And let's go ahead. Bring the legs back up to the center. Be in the center for a breath. And then let's take it back into simple cross-legged. And again, simple cross-legged isn't working for you today. If you prefer to take it back into Baddha Konasana or a wider, almost an Upavista, you can do that too. The base won't be quite as solid in an Upavista position like this, but if that works better for you, that's fine. Otherwise, I'm going to bring my legs back up into a simple cross-legged position. And, all right. So we're going to take hold of our forearms here. So watch what I'm doing first. So I'm going to just have my hands like this, and I'm going to hang on to my own forearms. So, well, actually, it's more just above the wrist, really. You find where it works for you. Maybe it'll be more like this with your hands, which is perfectly fine too. But I'm going to work my hands. So each hand is just holding on to the other one. Let's give ourselves just a break for a second. All right, so we have this kind of wide clasp of the hands. We'll slowly begin to bring the arms over the head. Now, if this bothers your shoulder at all, make sure you stop. I would stop before the point of pain. But we'll start here together. So let's slowly drop down through those sitting bones. And as we inhale, let's begin to bring the arms over the head. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. One more time, inhaling over the head. Exhaling down. Make sure as you're doing this, go ahead and undo the clasp. Make sure as you're doing this that you're moving in both directions at once though. Notice that as we bring our arms up, do it one more time. Notice how the energy and the attention all goes up. You may even get lighter on your sitting bones as you're doing this. Let's bring it down. So this time, as we do it, I want you to make sure that you're grounding down, you're moving in that opposite direction, so we get this lengthening effect rather than a compressive effect as we bring our arms over the head. So I'm starting with this. This is my right hand, so I'm going to stay consistent with that right now. So same hand on top. Let's do it one more time, pressing down through the sitting bones, inhaling up, lengthening as you bring the arms over the head any amount. And then slowly bring it back down. Good. Now I'm going to work the hands together a little bit. So we're going to do a couple this way. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. I guess I'm not working the hands together. I'm working them toward the elbows. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. And then finally, I'm going to work my hands all the way to the other elbows. If you don't get here, that's perfectly fine. Keep the wider, more comfortable position for the arms. And just one more time, inhaling up. Stretching up toward the ceiling, dropping down toward the floor with the sitting bones, lengthening the entire side body, all the way up from the hip, through the armpit, up through the elbows. And then with a wide arc, let's take it all the way out. And bring it on down. Okay, switch the cross of your legs if you're sitting in simple cross-legged. Now I had my right hand on top. This time I'm going to put my left hand on top here. So we're doing it again. So same thing here. So dropping down through the sitting bones, inhaling up. Exhaling down. One more time this way, inhaling up. Exhaling down. Every movement, you're filling the body with awareness, filling the body with your breath as you're expanding. All right, bring the hands a little closer to the elbows. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. We're actually going somewhere with this, folks, believe it or not. Inhaling up. You'll thank me in a couple of minutes when we're in Matsyasana or fish pose. And then finally working my hands one more time toward my elbows. Again, if this is too close for your shoulders, then make sure you have a wider distance between the elbows. Inhaling up here. Exhaling down. Inhaling up. Holding here. One more inhalation. And then a wide arc exhale takes us all the way back down. Lovely. Be in the center for a breath or two. Okay, so from here, we're going to come off our blankets, move those out to the side. You will need at least one blanket, maybe two, so don't put them too far away. I'm going to take my bolster, put it along the long axis of my mat here. So I have my bolster along the long axis of my mat. I'm going to take a blanket and put it on top of the bolster, so I have a little bit of a pillow here for myself. All right, so I have my blanket along the long axis of the mat and a blanket on top for my head. Now you may need more or less height for your head, so you'll figure that out as you go down. If you tend to need a little more height when you're on your back, you probably want to put a second blanket here. All right, so getting ourselves situated so our back is toward the bolster, but notice that I'm not touching the bolster. I'm actually several inches away from the bolster. So I don't want you to be all the way up, because that's going to compromise the comfort of the back a little bit here. My knees are starting bent, but you will decide what position for fish pose, what position that you want the tail of the fish to be in. So I'll show you a couple of different things as I lie down. So I'm going to put my hands back here, back behind my hips, lift up a little bit, ease myself down, make sure I have plenty of support for my head here. And once I'm down, I'm going to lift my buttocks off and drag my buttocks away from the bolster to open up the back. Now, if you're finding this is still too much of an arch, you can go on a couple of blankets, one or two folded blankets rather than a bolster, so it's not quite so high. Decide what you want to do with your legs for fish pose. So you could have them straight, as if the fish tail was a long fish tail. You could take them into a Baddha Konasana, where the feet are together and the knees are out to the side, although you might want to put a block or something underneath each leg if you do. I'm going to choose to take simple cross-legged. That's where we've been working for the last few minutes here. So I'm going to take simple cross-legged and just drop down. All right, so I've made the tail of the fish. I'm in this beautiful passive chest opening, and let's just be here for a couple of breaths, just letting the hands come down about 45 degrees or so down to the side with the palms facing up. Make sure you have adequate support underneath your head so it's not tipping back here. And take a few breaths. If at any time you want to change the position of your legs, make sure you do that. And you can also have the feet on the floor and the knees bent if your low back doesn't like this position. Okay, in this position now, let's go ahead and take that forearm clasp again. I'm going to start with my right over my left. Remember that clasp we were just doing. Now, drawing my sits bones down toward my feet, I'm going to inhale, lengthen and bring the arms over the head, easing myself into this very open, supported Matsyasana or modified fish pose here. And then let's bring the arms back to the center, coming back down toward our waist. I'm going to work and find the most comfortable position for my arms here. I'm going to work my hands out toward my elbows again. Lengthening the side body here as I bring the arms slowly over the head toward the wall behind me, any amount. They may come to the blanket, they may come straight up toward the ceiling, whatever works best for you today. Breathing here as you lengthen, filling the entire vessel with your breath with every inhalation. And then slowly release the arms. Check out to see which one is on top. And then let the arms release. And then let's go ahead and change the cross of your legs. So if you happen to be in simple cross-legged, you're going to put the other leg on top. And then we have to put, of course, the other arm on top. So let's do the same thing. So whatever arm wasn't on top before will now be the one on top. This time it will be my left for me. Yours is whatever you didn't do last time. And let's go ahead and slowly with that wide clasp. I've got the wide clasp this time. Inhale, the arms over the head. And if the arms come to the blanket, you can rest them on the blanket. Otherwise, just resting maybe with the arms straight up toward the ceiling, whatever works for you today. Reach toward the wall behind you with the elbows, lengthening the side body, especially that distance from the elbow to the armpit all the way down through the waist to the hips. And then slowly release the arms. And then if you'd like to go with the arms a little bit closer and grab those elbows, you can go ahead and give that a try. If that's too close, keep the arms a little more distant apart. Inhale, bringing the arms over the head one final time, reaching over, and if it feels good to unclasp the arms and stretch those hands out toward the wall behind you. Feel free to do that, or stretching them up toward the ceiling works too. So you could be stretching those fingertips up toward the ceiling. Any amount is fine. Breathing here. And then let's let the arms down to the sides, allowing the elbows to rest on the floor with palms facing up for just a couple more breaths. Then let the hands come back to the body, back toward the center, so they land on the ribs or the abdomen. And let's go ahead and uncross our legs. Knees bent, feet flat on the floor here. Take a breath or two here. And then you can do one of two things. We're going to slowly come out of this pose. You can come up and go into a half dog position with your head resting on the bolster or floor, or you can simply come up to a seated position and rest there. So everybody's going to roll to the side, slowly press up, and you can press up into any comfortable seated position. But if you'd like to take a brief half dog position, you can move right into that. Either way, whatever position you take, allowing for length in the spine here, softness in the eyes, the face, the organs of perception, length along the side body. If you're in downward facing dog, you're drawing those hips back as either the hands or the elbows are rooting you to the ground. And then release. Come to a sitting position next to your bolster. So I'm going to keep my blanket on my bolster. You can decide if you want to move the blanket or keep the blanket as we go. We're going to take a supported side twist here. So I'm close to my blanket, my bolster. I'm close to my bolster this time. And I'm just going to lift up, scoot my hips back just a little bit, And then slowly bring the front of my torso down to the bolster. I've kept the blanket here for my head, and I'm just going to place my head gently on the blanket. So resting here. Notice my legs are both, they're still bent, so they're in a comfortable position. My feet are gently crossed over one another. I have my hands down on the floor for support. If it feels better, you could put them up on the bolster, if that feels better for you. Notice that my head is turned toward my knees here. Rest here. However, for those of you who need a little more support in this position, you can certainly take one or even two blankets and have a little bit more support as you come down. And then you might want to bring the hands in between the blankets here to give you a little bit more support. So take the amount of support that you need for this. Resting here, noticing, of course, in a twisting position that your breath will be more shallow. Just feeling the sensation of the breath in this position, not trying to take overly deep breaths. Letting the body release comfortably into this twist for a couple more breaths here. And then using both hands on the floor to ease yourself up. And then turning. Again, having the support you need and recognizing that one side is not like the other. So maybe you'll need more support on one side versus the other. And again, you can have your blanket here as a support for your head, or you can add a little extra height to the bolster if you want a little extra height for it. So once again, on this side, just showing you from the opposite side, notice that my legs are just bent and my feet gently crossed over one another. I'm close to the bolster, lifting up any flesh and then coming back down and turning my head toward the point of the knees. And then slowly easing myself back onto the bolster. And simply resting in this position. Again, noticing in this position the sensation of the breath. You can feel it a little bit more in those ribs that are facing up toward the ceiling. Soft breath into those ribs. Don't worry about taking deep breaths in this position. Letting the body find a sense of comfort and a sense of ease in this supported twist here. As always, notice how the mind tends to wander, wonders how long you're going to be in the pose. Returning back to the breath, back to the body for a couple more slow, easy breaths here. And then, as before, planting the hands, easing yourself back up, rotating away from the bolster, and then just sitting for a couple of breaths. All right, so two more poses today, both of which you'll appreciate, I'm sure. So we are going to take legs up the wall pose if you have a wall nearby, and I'll demonstrate on my wall here. If you don't have a wall nearby, you can simply take legs supported by a bolster. So you could use something for your head. Place the bolster under your knees. Ease yourself back gently. And you can take this pose in this position with the arms here or the arms out to the side. If you happen to have a chair, or your cat might come. As soon as I get on the floor, of course, my cat wants to come. Maybe he wants to go outside. There he goes. He'll probably be back in a couple minutes. All right, if you've got a chair, you bring the chair and you put your legs in the 90-90 position on the chair. So take either one of those poses, but if you'd like to take legs up the wall today, I'll show you a couple simple things. We won't put height underneath our bottom, which sometimes we do in legs up the wall, but today we'll keep it simple and not do that. So I'm bringing a blanket just because it's a little more comfortable in this position. I like to put a blanket underneath me here. You might need a blanket for your head, so have another blanket nearby. And in this position, I like to use a strap around my legs. So now we've got this strap that we made earlier, and I'm going to show you how to put that around your thighs when we get into the position. So I'm moving my hips toward the wall. It's always awkward getting in here. I'm going to come down to one elbow, and as I come down to one elbow, I'm going to rotate my hips, slowly bringing them up toward the wall. I'm going to walk myself in toward the wall a bit. Again, if your head tips back, make sure you have something underneath your head here. And I'm just going to put the belt on, as my cat would prefer to hang out and photobomb here. He loves when I practice yoga. Anyway, I'm tightening my belt here, right across my thighs. And you can bring your hands out into a 45-degree position, or you're welcome to bring them into cactus if you can comfortably lie there. And your cat may come and climb on you or want to lie next to you because they recognize this as a very restorative pose. And so resting here. So whatever position you've decided to take, whether it's legs up the wall, legs on the bolster, legs on the chair or couch, or whatever you happen to have at home, let's all just begin to relax here and allow the body to settle in this position. Let the breath be soft. Draw your attention to the bowl of the pelvis, deep down in the bowl of the pelvis. And let every exhalation allow the skin of the pelvis to drop toward the spine. So allowing the belly, the skin covering the abdominal region, the contents of the abdominal region to release and relax toward the spine with your exhale. Soften the eyes, the ears, the inside of the mouth. The eyes can close or remain gently open, whatever is working for you today. And now draw your attention gently to about the lower 2/3 of the ribs, around the back and the front. Notice the gently filling of the ribs as the lungs gently nudge them with every inhale, and then the slow release of the exhale. Simply follow that inhalation, exhalation, again without judgment. No striving here, letting the breath come naturally. So go ahead and take a few more breaths here. And then we'll gradually transition to Shavasana. So if you are lying in a position where you're really comfortable and you'd like to stay where you are, you're welcome to stay in any in that position. If you'd like to transition out of your pose, especially if your legs are up the wall, we'll go ahead and bend our legs, slide that strap off our feet. And then you need to kind of hold on to your collar so you don't choke yourself. Ease yourself away from the wall, and then gently transition to whatever final relaxation pose you'd like to take. So if you'd like to take a more traditional Shavasana, you can find something for your head. Ease yourself back down onto your back. Taking something under your knees if you'd like, a bolster or blanket under your knees if you'd like for support. Otherwise, taking a little head support and letting both the arms and the legs relax gently away from the midline of the body. So finding whatever position feels right for you today. Easing yourself into your Shavasana position. Allowing the body to find a position of rest there. Do any final adjusting that you need to do to be comfortable in this position. And then once you get there, allow yourself to release and receive the support and the sweetness of this final pose. And so softening the skin of the forehead, letting it release down toward the bridge of the nose. Softening the skin on the face, the muscles of the jaw and around the teeth. Softening the skin of the scalp, letting it be soft and supple. Releasing the skin behind the ear, letting it flow down along the sides of the neck out to the tips of the shoulders. And then continuing that release all the way down from the shoulders to the elbows to the wrists, and out through the palms, the backs of the hands, out through the fingertips. Soften the skin right along the collarbones, and almost like it was unrolling, allowing the skin to release as it courses down the length of the front of the torso and along the lengths of the sides of the torso. And from the nape of the neck, releasing the skin along the back body, traveling over the ribs and the spine, all the way down through the hips. Soften the skin over the hips, allowing for a softness and a release all the way down along the course of the thigh to the knee, from the knee to the ankle, and along the foot and out through the toes. Let the body rest in this quiet state of alertness. Receiving Shavasana. Slowly begin the process of coming out of Shavasana. Maybe slightly deeper inhalation, slightly longer exhalation. Blink the eyes, open and closed a couple of times. And maybe even wiggle the fingers and toes as you begin to slowly come out of Shavasana, bending the knees, rolling over to the side, pausing there, and then sitting all the way back up into any comfortable seated position, taking your time coming up, pressing gently off the floor. And then bringing the hands together back where we started, celebrating the opportunity to practice together, honoring those who came before us to pave the way. Namaste. Thank you for sharing in this practice today.